Okay, so the first thing you want to understand is that you're not going into this with high hopes. Let's put it that way. You're not going into this to make an achievement somehow. You're really going into this for the public humiliation factor. You're not really honestly interested in anything that you're talking about. You're going into this because you want to be exiled from your community. You want to be excommunicated from whatever church you're in. You don't want to be a part of anything that involves social interaction. You just want to leave. So I'm going to give a quick overview on many different segments of the honey barbecue plan, which it's a very simple plan. You'll know what you're doing, but you gotta know what it is that you plan on doing. So you gotta have an outlook. If you don't go in there with an outlook, if you don't go in there with a sense, then you're not gonna have a good time. Some people, they prefer, in my methods, the Straussman approach. Very simple approach. Very entertaining. See, I can't say I've had any problems with it. But like, I can't say I've had any problems with it. But see, this whole thing is like you're huffing paint. You're gonna be off the wall. You're gonna be crazy. You're gonna be a little bit out of your mind. You're gonna be acting a little differently than you usually would. But all in all, there are many different facets to this ideology. Most of which we will go over. Not fully, not as in depth as you probably want out of a guide into a religion. Let's just say you're making a huge mistake. You are making one of the worst possible mistakes of your life. Let's put it kindly like that. You're not making a good choice. You're not making a bad choice either. You're really just making a neutral, kind of just angry choice. And I think that's really important to understand when you go into this. You really want to know what you're getting yourself into. And most people don't. Most people, they see like a lot of gum on the ground and they're like, that's a lot of gum. But when you see that as part of our ideology, you have to see that lot of gum on the ground and you have to think this is something holy, this is something divine. This thing was sent down to me for my own purposes. And you gotta think about that when you're working on this. If you have to think that your whole life is going to change, you see a piece of trash on the ground, you have to think like, this thing has its own specific purpose. Now we're harkening back to the old ideas of important thinker, wise old man, comedy genius, Marcus Leroux. He had some great ideas about the thought consciousness, which is when you think, your brain has all these floating thoughts just rattling around, and these floating thoughts are not necessarily negative, but you don't want to be experiencing all these floating thoughts because they often contain we call them sandwich beings because they have a very sandwich type mental structure, because everything has a mental structure. Like, if you see that piece of trash, it has the mental structure of A, B, C, because it is about worth as much as, your average internet. And you've got to think, like, what am I, like, you've got to love to die here. Like, you can't just go into this thinking that I'll be fine. Like, you have to enter a different mindset. You have to enter the mindset, comparability mindset, which uses, get all the different thoughts, you just kind of jam them by hitting a large object, like you gotta hit it into your head. You gotta get this idea into your mind as fast as possible. You gotta metabolize the thought, because your mind has its own intestines, and you've got to metabolize everything that you see into brain fiber, because brain fiber is the most important thing that you will